You end up with that. Dave Friedman, Hardwood Floor Finishing 101. Today's video we'll look at refinishing an oak floor that's badly damaged with pet urine, water, and scratches, and some of the challenges we had doing it. Enjoy the video. So you can see what significant water and moisture damage can do to the planks. Let's see how we can bring this floor back to life. So when you're loading the paper onto this machine, it's good to clean the drum off first. I like to leave an old paper on there at all times just to protect the rubber. Now, what you have to realize with this paper on this machine, it works by expanding out to grip this. All of these will expand out as this is spinning. So as this is spinning around, these expand out and grip the paper to hold it in place. Sometimes these are really tight, especially the new ones, putting them on. So let's check and see how this goes on. Check to see how that goes on like that. That's pretty good. I usually just, the expansion drum here, it's just tapered on the end to allow you to put the paper on easier. But even still, sometimes, especially if you've been working a job and you're changing the paper, this tends to warm up and it expands, so these can sometimes be a little tight getting on. So in that case, if it doesn't easily go on when you're attempting to put it on, first of all you got to comb this. So if you find it's not easily going onto the drum, right? If it's too tight, and this was pretty tight here, so what you do is you put your foot here and you got to lock it, and then you kind of shake it. You shake the paper like this. You don't want to bang the end of it and then mushroom this end of your paper here and damage it. So then what I do is I just lightly spin it a bit. Then you get it into position and you're good to go. So this is after about 7 minutes. Roughing off with the 36 grit. So from here I'm just going to continue this, get it all roughed off. Then I'm going to finish sand it with the drum. And we'll check in and I'll show you the progress I made after I've got all the drum sanding done. So we're getting ready to start edgering. I have to pound out some edger discs. 60 grit paper. You see with the disc cutter, it has the outer 7-inch diameter and the inner 1-inch diameter for the center. I always start with the center first. So after we pound out the disc, we then got to relief cut the center so it sits flat on the edger. So we'll just do those relief cuts by taking our knife, do 4 slits in the center. no more than ½ inch long. So now when I put it on my edger and screw it down, it's going to sit flat. I've provided links to everything I used in this video in the description below. So after you pounded out a few discs, change up the edger sheet, flip it over. It unscrews with this locking key that it has on the back. And I like to leave one paper, an older paper underneath. So I'm not going to put a new sheet right on the pad. I like to have one sheet backing, just an old one. You tighten it up with your key. Make sure it's in the center. Now we're good to go. Just have to put our bag holder on there. Never tighten this right down. You want to be able to move the bag out of the way when you're edgering. Okay, so I finished the drum sanding to 80 grit. Now I'm ready to edger this room. When we're edgering, we like to go clockwise around the room whenever possible. And always be careful when you're plugging this in. Make sure your switch is off first. And if you get a power failure, a power surge, and the power goes out, make sure you shut the machine off. If you found this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe to the channel. So I've finished the edgering now. It's edgered to 100 grit. Now it's time to move to the next phase, which is removal of edger lines and removal of the drum stop marks. And we're going to remove them before we start with the square buff. So that is something we have to go over. We have to take all those edger marks out. And we have to take the stop lines from the drum sander out before we can move forward. It's a very critical step because if we don't do that, those marks will be more visible in the stain. So you want to keep your scraper sharp when you're doing the corners, and you need a solid base so when you're sharpening it, it doesn't move. So if you're standing up, just hold your hand against your thigh there and scrape down. Ideally you'd like to do it on a table, but if you're not around one, something, or even a staircase or something, but just when you're sharpening it, you got to keep it on the flat, that flat that's on there, and just move it, sharpen away from you. It's the only way it can be sharpened. And then you run your finger across and you'll feel it should be nice and sharp. You'll have to do this several times around the room as you're scraping, because you'll feel it digging in. So you should end up with a lot of swarf if your scraper's working right, if it's sharp enough. So here you can notice these edger lines. That's from the 100 grit edger. So So those all got to be removed. And what I actually do is with my palm sander, this palm sander, I actually go to a coarser grit. That's a 36 grit. So that's going to be far more effective for removing the 100 grit lines. So I'll actually start with a 36 grit on the palm sander here to take out the 100 grit edger lines. So it's far more effective to actually go to a coarser grit on your palm sander because you're moving the palm sander this way. And then I'll increase the grit on this. I'll go up to the 60, and then if you want to go up higher to the 80 you can. I'm going to be going over the entire floor after I've removed the edger lines and scraped the corners. I'm going to be going over the floor, the entire floor, with the square buff. We'll take a look at that later. So you see the process of doing the Makita or any palm sander is going to remove our edger lines. So I will Makita the entire area that was edgered. And we'll take out all those edger lines and we'll be closer to having this floor ready for stain. So I've gone through the entire perimeter with the Makita, with the palm sander. First I hit 36 to take the edger marks out. Scrape the corners, then I hit it with the 60 after the 36. So we removed all the edger lines and we removed the stop lines from the drum sander. So now we're going to move on to the Clarke OBS 18. And we're going to start with the 60, then we're going to go to the 80, vacuuming in between. Then we'll be ready to stain the floor. So now that I've thoroughly vacuumed the floor, it's time to tack everything. So you can use this Bennett tack cloth. We're going to tack the entire floor. So I've thoroughly vacuumed the floor, but if you watch this, my hand is clean, okay? That's what it picks up. And that's after vacuuming, the entire thing and vacuuming all the cracks. So that residual dust that stays in the floor, which isn't taken by the vacuum cleaner, we're going to have to tack it off. So you can see how much dust we've picked up here. This is the clean part. And that's the dust just from one application over about 90 square feet. So I'll go through this room again with the tack cloth and we'll get it nice and clean, then we're ready to stain. Today's job, we will be using Minwax Special Walnut stain. Remember to stir this very thoroughly. Never shake the can, as that would put bubbles in it. Just stirring it, make sure we get all the pigment embeds itself into the bottom. Just settles on the bottom if the can is sitting on the store shelf too long. You need to make sure you thoroughly stir this can. So back the following day, and the floor is nice and dry and the stain looks really good. It's coming along, and we're just gonna apply the first coat now. This job we're using Fabulon Satin Urethane. We're back, the first coat has been applied. Following day. Now this job I'm only doing 2 coats. But I'm going to screen sand this now and then apply the second coat. So after applying the first coat, the grain tends to get raised. Now this one here is actually pretty good, but it does have a bit of a coarseness to it. And so I'm going to just screen sand that with my 180 grit hole sander. Then after we screen sand it with this, we're going to vacuum it and tack it, and then we'll be ready to apply the next coat. So one thing you want to be careful with when you're screen sanding is not to be too aggressive, because you could go through, there's only 1 coat of urethane on here, so you could go through the urethane and the stain right down to the bare wood, so we don't want to be dealing with that. So you just give a moderate pressure, you know, and you want to just knock that coarseness off so it's as smooth as glass. Then we can vacuum it, tack it, and then apply the next coat. Okay, so after I've screen sanded it, it gets white, powdery urethane, which is, you know, created by sanding. So this is totally normal. It should look like this. After screen sanding, I just vacuum the floor, but you'll notice, you see my hand here is clean. When I wipe it on the floor, there's still that residual dust, right, from the screen sand. So what we're going to do is we're going to tack the floor now, just with with a clean rag that's dampened with mineral spirits, and we're going to wipe the floor off just to make it clean. Okay, so this is what we've picked up. A couple of minutes we just did that. I'm going to go through the entire process again.